The sky above Haven Colony burned red, not the gentle crimson of the planet's usual sunset, but the angry glow of ships in low orbit. Enemy ships. Captain Tom James stood at the edge of the colony's main defense bunker, his weathered face illuminated by the emergency lights. 3 days. That's how long they had been under siege by the Void Armée. 3 days of constant bombing, of fear, of watching their outer defenses crumble one by one. Captain. The voice came from behind him. Lisa Bell, his second in command, approached with a data tablet in her hand. Her uniform was stained with dirt and what looked like engine oil. The north shield is down to 18%. If they hit it again with those plasma cannons. She didn't need to finish. They both knew what it meant. How many ships do we count now? Tom asked, his voice steadied despite everything. Lisa's face tightened. 47. They brought in 3 more destroyers last night. Tom nodded slowly. Haven was supposed to be exactly that. A haven. The first successful human colony in the Arcturus system. Established just 15 years ago. Now home to over 5,000 colonists. Families. Children. People who had come to build a new life, not die in an unprovoked alien attack. The civilians, he asked. Safe for now. All in the underground shelters. Food and water for 2 more weeks, at most. The bunker shook as another explosion hit somewhere nearby. Dust fell from the ceiling. No one flinched anymore. They had gotten used to it. Sir, Lisa hesitated. The council wants to meet. They're talking about surrender terms. Tom's jaw tightened. There won't be any terms, Lisa. You've seen what the Void does to colonies that surrender. The Void Armada had appeared 6 months ago at the edges of human space. No warnings, no demands, no communication at all. Just destruction. 3 smaller outposts had already fallen before they reached Haven. There were no survivors. We need help, Lisa said simply. Earth is at least 4 months away at the fastest FTL speeds, Tom replied. By the time they even get our message. Lisa stepped closer, lowering her voice. That's why I came to find you. I think we have something. Come with me. Deep beneath the main colony complex, past the civilian shelters and emergency power systems, Lisa led Tom through a narrow service tunnel. They had to crouch to avoid hitting their heads on the low ceiling. What exactly are we looking for down here? Tom asked, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Do you remember when we first established the colony, how the survey team found those strange metal structures embedded in the mountain? Tom nodded. The structures had been studied briefly, determined to be remnants of some ancient civilization long gone from Haven. Nothing of immediate value had been discovered, so research had been deprioritized in favor of getting the colony established. Well, Lisa continued, Ben from engineering has been studying them in his spare time. Yesterday, when we lost contact with our communication satellites, he came to me with a theory. They reached a heavy metal door at the end of the tunnel. Lisa pressed her palm against the scanner, and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside was a large chamber carved directly into the rock. The walls were lined with strange, angular metal panels that seemed to shimmer despite the lack of direct light. In the center of the room stood Ben Miller, the colony's head engineer, hunched over what looked like a control panel. Captain. Ben nodded, his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. Glad Lisa found you. What am I looking at, Ben? Tom asked, gazing around the alien chamber. It's a communication relay, sir. Not just any relay. Ben's eyes lit up with excitement despite their dire situation. This technology is incredible. The ancients who built this, they were using quantum entanglement for instant communication across vast distances. Instant. Tom's attention snapped into focus. You mean no light speed delay? Exactly, Lisa cut in. If we can get it working, we could send a message directly to Earth. Not in months. Now. Hope flickered in Tom's chest for the first time in days, but he quickly tempered it. Does it even work after all this time? That's what we've been figuring out. Ben gestured to the alien console. The system still has power. Some kind of energy source we don't understand. I've managed to interface our equipment with it, but there's a problem. The network it was designed to connect to is gone. So it's useless. Tom's shoulders slumped. Not necessarily, Ben replied. I think I can reconfigure it to send a broad-spectrum pulse, like a shout into the darkness. If Earth has any quantum receivers, even experimental ones, they might pick it up. That's a big might, Tom said. It's all we have, Lisa replied simply. Tom looked between his two officers, then at the alien technology surrounding them. How long to get it ready? Give me 6 hours, Ben said. You have 3, Tom replied. The North Shield won't last 6. Exactly 3 hours later, the modified alien relay stood ready. The team had connected their own equipment to the ancient technology, creating a hybrid system that looked more like a mechanical monster than a communication device. The message needs to be short, Ben explained. Just a few seconds at most. That's all the power we can channel. Tom nodded, stepping up to the makeshift transmitter. He took a deep breath and pressed the record button. This is Captain Thomas James of Haven Colony. We are under attack by the Void Armada. 47 ships. 5,000 civilians. Our defenses are failing. We need immediate assistance. These are our coordinates. After sending the message, a deafening silence filled the alien chamber. No one knew if it had worked, if anyone had heard them. The ground shook violently as another bombardment began above. Back to your stations, Tom ordered. We hold as long as we can. On the bridge of the Void Armada's command ship, General Dra observed the human colony with cold, calculating eyes. His gray skin reflected the glow of the tactical displays, showing the colony's weakening defenses. Their north shield is collapsing, his weapons officer reported. 2 more strikes, and we can land ground forces. Dra nodded in satisfaction. These humans are persistent, I'll give them that. But ultimately, they are no different from the others. A sudden alert caught his attention. One of his sensor officers turned with a confused expression. General, we detected a strange energy spike from the colony. Some kind of transmission. But it's like nothing we've seen before. Intercepted, Dra ordered. We cannot, sir. It disappeared. As if it wasn't bound by normal space. Dra's eyes narrowed. He rose from his command chair and approached the colony's holographic display, studying it with renewed interest. It doesn't matter, he finally said. Even if they found some way to call for help, no one will reach them in time. No one can travel faster than light allows. He turned to his bridge crew, mandibles clicking in what passed for a smile among his kind. Continue the attack. By nightfall, this colony will be nothing but ashes, like all the others. Little did Dra know that the humans of Earth had been making breakthroughs he couldn't imagine, and that Captain James's desperate call had already been received, not months later, but mere seconds after it was sent. The extinction of Haven Colony seemed certain, but far away. Something was already in motion that would change everything. The message arrived in the middle of Earth's night cycle. At Earth's military command center in the North American zone, most of the staff had gone home. Only the night shift remained, monitoring communications from the hundreds of human outposts scattered across known space. Lieutenant Dave Wilson sat at his console, fighting to stay awake. His shift would end in 20 minutes. 20 long minutes before he could head home to his apartment and fall into bed. The screens in front of him showed nothing unusual. Routine check-ins, supply requests, and the occasional minor emergency that local forces could handle. Then every alarm in the command center went off at once. Dave jolted upright as his screens filled with flashing red warnings. For a moment, he thought it was a system malfunction. But then the message played. This is Captain Thomas James of Haven Colony. We are under attack by the Void Armada. 47 ships, 5,000 civilians. Our defenses are failing. We need immediate assistance. These are our coordinates. The voice was clear, as if Captain James was standing right next to him, not transmitting from a colony 4 months away at the fastest possible speeds. "Sir," Dave called out, his voice rising with urgency. "Priority 1 message from Haven Colony. They're under attack." Admiral Robert Brown was there in seconds, his weathered face stern as he listened to the message replay. "That's impossible," he muttered. "Haven is in the Arcturus system. There's no way we could receive a real-time transmission from that distance." "Sir, the quantum signature is authenticated," Dave replied, pointing to the verification codes on his screen. "This came through on a channel we didn't even know existed. Some kind of quantum entanglement that bypasses normal communication delays." Admiral Brown's expression darkened. "Get me the Joint Chiefs now." 2 hours later, the crisis room at Military Command was filled with Earth's highest-ranking military officials, their faces grim as they studied the tactical displays. 47 void ships, General Martinez stated, shaking her head. "Even if we could get there instantly, which we can't, we don't have enough forces in the entire sector to defeat a fleet that size. And Haven has no chance on their own," Admiral Brown added. "Their defenses were designed for pirates and minor threats, not a full-scale invasion." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what was at stake. Haven wasn't just any colony. It was the first successful settlement in the Arcturus system, a symbol of humanity's expansion beyond their home solar system. If it fell, other colonies would follow. "If only we could get there in time," Admiral Brown said, staring at the star map showing the vast distance between Earth and Haven. "Maybe we can." All heads turned toward the door. A young man stood there, his rumpled lab coat suggesting he'd been pulled from work. His ID badge identified him as Dr. Mike Reynolds, Advanced Propulsion Division. "Who let you in here?" General Martinez demanded. Admiral Brown raised a hand. "I did. Dr. Reynolds has been working on a project that might be relevant." "Go ahead, Doctor." Mike stepped forward, clearly nervous to be addressing such a distinguished audience. He tapped a command into his tablet, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room, a massive ship unlike any in Earth's current fleet. "This is the Defender," Mike explained. "It's the prototype for our new line of battleships. We've been testing a new propulsion system, Project Thunderbolt. It's based on folding space rather than traveling through it. You're talking about an instant jump," Admiral Brown said, "like the transmission we received." Mike nodded eagerly. "Exactly. We've never tried it with a ship this size. But the math works. Instead of taking months to reach Haven, we could be there in minutes." "And how many of these instant jump ships do we have?" General Martinez asked. Mike's excitement faltered. "Just the one, ma'am. The Defender. And we've only done short-range tests so far. Nothing like the distance to Arcturus." "So you're proposing we send one untested ship against 47 enemy vessels?" Another general scoffed. "Not exactly," Admiral Brown said thoughtfully. "The Defender is big enough to carry several smaller ships in its launch bays, and it's armed with our latest weapons systems. It's still a suicide mission," General Martinez argued. Admiral Brown turned to Mike. "What are the chances of success, Doctor?" "Honest assessment." Mike took a deep breath. "For the jump itself, about 60%. For winning against that many enemy ships, I don't know. That depends on how good our forces are." Admiral Brown nodded slowly, then turned to face the room. "We're not sending the Defender alone. We'll load it with our best fighters and our most elite troops. If this works, we'll have the element of complete surprise. The Void won't be expecting us for months, if at all." "And who's going to volunteer for this mission?" General Martinez asked. "You're talking about testing experimental technology in combat conditions against overwhelming odds." Admiral Brown smiled grimly. "I already have volunteers." The massive launch bay of the Defender hummed with activity. Fighters were being loaded into launch tubes. Troops boarded dropships. Engineers ran final checks on systems that had never been pushed to these limits before. Captain Jack Roberts stood on the bridge, watching the preparations on the ship's main screen. At 42, He had seen more combat than most officers twice his age. When Admiral Brown had asked for volunteers, Jack had been the first to step forward. "Status report," he called out. "All systems nominal, Captain." His first officer, Lieutenant Anna Green, replied. "Engineering reports the Thunderbolt drive is as ready as it will ever be. All crew are aboard and at battle stations." Jack nodded. They had assembled the best of the best in just under 12 hours. Pilots who could outfly anything the Void could put in the air, Marines who had fought in the most hostile environments imaginable, engineers who could keep the ship running even if half of it was blown away. "And our passengers?" he asked. Anna smiled slightly. "Special forces are loaded and ready, sir. Colonel Taylor says his troops could use a good fight." Jack returned the smile. Colonel Bill Taylor and his Special Forces unit had a reputation for doing the impossible. If anyone could help the colonists on the ground, it was them. A communication alert sounded. Admiral Brown's face appeared on the main screen. "Captain Roberts, you are cleared for launch. Remember, this is a rescue mission first. Save those colonists if you can, but your primary objective is to assess the Void's capabilities and return with that intelligence if the battle goes against you." "With all due respect, Admiral," Jack replied, "we're not planning on losing this fight." Admiral Brown's stern expression softened slightly. "Godspeed, Captain. Make Earth proud." The communication ended. Jack turned to his crew, all watching him expectantly. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to make history. In a few minutes, we'll attempt the longest jump ever made by a human vessel. If we succeed, we'll arrive at Haven in time to save thousands of lives and show the Void Armada that humanity is not to be trifled with." He paused, looking each crew member in the eye. "I won't lie to you. The odds are against us. But Earth is counting on us. Haven is counting on us. So let's show them what humanity's finest can do." Lieutenant Green straightened in her chair. "All stations report ready, Captain." Jack nodded. "Engage the Thunderbolt drive." The engines began to hum, the sound rising to a pitch that seemed to vibrate through every molecule of the ship. On the view screen, space itself appeared to bend and stretch. "Drive at maximum power," the chief engineer reported. "Preparing for jump in 3, 2, 1. The stars outside suddenly stretched into lines, then vanished altogether as the Defender and its crew leaped into the unknown, carrying with them Haven's only hope for survival. The jump was nothing like the simulations. Captain Jack Roberts gripped his command chair as reality itself seemed to tear apart around the Defender. The massive battleship shuddered violently, metal groaning under stresses it was never designed to endure. Warning lights flashed across every console on the bridge. "Status report," Jack shouted over the noise. Lieutenant Anna Green fought with her controls, trying to make sense of the readings. "Unknown, sir. We're somewhere, but sensors aren't functioning properly. The Thunderbolt drive is overheating." Through the main view screen, Jack could see nothing but swirling darkness, occasionally broken by flashes of energy that resembled lightning. They were passing through some kind of space between spaces, a realm that human eyes were never meant to see. "Engineering report," Jack called into the comm. Chief Engineer Pete Kelly's voice came back, strained and breaking up with static. "Drive. Holding, Captain. But barely. We've never pushed it this far before." She wasn't ready for a jump this long. Jack made a quick decision. All power to structural integrity, and the drive itself. "Shut down non-essential systems." "Already done, sir," Anna replied. "But we're still seeing dangerous power fluctuations." A particularly violent shudder ran through the ship, followed by the sound of a distant explosion. "Damage report," Jack demanded. "Sections 12 through 15 reporting hull breaches," the tactical officer called out. "Emergency force fields are holding, but we've lost 2 of our smaller vessels in Bay 3. Jack cursed under his breath. Those ships would have been valuable in the coming battle. "How long until we reach Haven?" he asked. Anna shook her head. Impossible to say, sir. Our navigation systems can't make sense of where we are. Could be minutes, could be hours. Jack stood up, steadying himself against his chair as the ship continued to shake. I'm going to check on our troops. Lieutenant Green, you have the bridge. Try to stabilize our course if you can. Yes, sir, Anna replied, sliding into the captain's chair as Jack made his way to the turbolift. In the main hangar bay, Colonel Bill Taylor was addressing his Special Forces troops when Jack arrived. Unlike the ship's crew, these men and women seemed almost relaxed despite the violent shaking of the vessel. They had been through worse. Captain on deck. Someone called out, and the soldiers snapped to attention. At ease, Jack said, Colonel Taylor, I need a word. Bill Taylor was a tall, muscular man with a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. He nodded to his troops and stepped aside with Jack. How bad is it? Bill asked without preamble. Bad enough, Jack admitted. The ship is holding together, but the jump is putting more strain on the systems than we anticipated. We may arrive at Haven with some damage. Bill nodded, unsurprised. My troops are ready regardless. We can deploy from orbit even if the ship can't land. Good, Jack replied. But there's something else you should know. Lieutenant Smith from Intelligence has been analyzing the data we have on the Void Army. It's worse than we thought. Jack handed Bill a data tablet. On it was a series of images showing void ships in various sectors of space, along with a timeline. They're not just attacking randomly, Jack explained. They're systematically wiping out every spacefaring civilization they encounter. Haven isn't special. It's just next on their list. Bill's eyes narrowed as he studied the information. So this isn't just about saving one colony. It's about stopping them before they reach Earth. Exactly, Jack said. Admiral Brown suspects they're eliminating potential threats before launching a full-scale invasion of Earth itself. That's why this mission is so important. Even if we can't save Haven, we need to gather intelligence on their capabilities. A violent lurch of the ship interrupted their conversation, nearly throwing both men off their feet. Captain Roberts to the bridge immediately. Anna's voice came over the comm, tight with urgency. Jack and Bill exchanged a look. Stay ready, Colonel, Jack said before hurrying back toward the turbolift. When Jack returned to the bridge, he found chaos. Smoke filled the air from a burned-out console, and crew members were working frantically at their stations. Report, Jack called out. Anna looked up from the main console, her face pale. The Thunderbolt drive is failing, sir. We're being pulled out of the jump prematurely. Where are we? That's the thing, sir, the navigation officer replied. According to our calculations, we're still at least 2 light years from Haven. The drive couldn't handle a full distance. Jack's heart sank. 2 light years was better than the 4 months it would have taken at regular FTL speeds, but it was still too far to help the colony in time. Options, he asked. Chief Engineer Pete Kelly's voice came over the comm. Captain, I might have a solution. The drive core is damaged but not destroyed. If we vent the plasma from the main reactor directly into the Thunderbolt chamber, we might be able to make one more short jump. That sounds extremely dangerous, Jack replied. It is, Pete admitted. We're talking about a 30% chance of success, 70% chance of blowing ourselves to atoms. But it's the only way we reach Haven in time. Jack closed his eyes briefly, weighing the options. Open space outside the jump field was relatively safe. They could make repairs, send a message back to Earth about what they had learned, and return home. Or they could risk everything on one more desperate jump. He thought of the 5,000 colonists on Haven, their faces upturned to the sky as enemy ships rained destruction down upon them. Do it, he ordered. Prepare for the second jump. As the crew worked frantically to prepare the ship for the risky maneuver, Lieutenant John Smith approached Jack quietly. Captain, there's something else you should see, he said, offering a data tablet. Jack took it, scanning the information quickly. It was a more detailed analysis of the Void Armada's movements, compiled from the ship's long-range sensors during their brief exit from the jump field. "Are you sure about this?" Jack asked, his voice low. John nodded grimly. "Yes, sir. The data is clear. The void ships at Haven aren't just a random battle group. Based on the energy signatures and formation patterns, that's their command fleet. Their leader is there." Jack's expression hardened. "So if we can somehow defeat them at Haven, it could cripple their entire invasion plan," John finished. "But sir, even with all our advanced technology, we're still outnumbered. The Defender is powerful, but not that powerful." Jack handed the tablet back. "Then we'll just have to be smarter than they are. Get this information to Colonel Taylor and the tactical team. I want battle plans that take advantage of this." "Yes, sir." The ship shuddered again as engineers rerouted power systems and prepared for the desperate final jump. "All hands, prepare for emergency jump procedure," Jack announced over the ship-wide comm. "This will be rougher than the first one. Secure all stations and brace for extreme turbulence." As the crew rushed to comply, Jack returned to his command chair and strapped himself in. The view screen showed the swirling darkness of normal space, stars glittering against the void. "Thunderbolt drive is reconfigured, Captain," Pete reported from engineering. "Ready on your command." Jack took a deep breath. "For Earth. For Haven. Engage." The ship lurched forward as the drive activated once more, the stars stretching and twisting before disappearing entirely. The Defender shuddered violently, but this time there was a sense of purpose to their journey. They were no longer testing an unproven technology. They were bringing war to the void. On Haven, the situation had become desperate. Captain Tom James crouched behind a fallen wall, dust covering his uniform and blood caking the side of his face. The colony's north shield had finally collapsed 6 hours ago, allowing void ground forces to land. Now they were fighting street by street, building by building. "Captain." Lisa crawled up beside him, her rifle clutched tightly in her hands. "They've reached the central plaza. We can't hold them much longer." Tom nodded grimly. He had already ordered all remaining civilians to retreat to the deepest underground shelters. His soldiers were fighting bravely, but they were vastly outnumbered and outgunned. "What about the east sector?" he asked. "Still holding, but barely," Lisa replied. "Ben rigged some of the mining explosives as traps. That slowed them down." A series of explosions rocked the ground nearby, sending debris raining down around them. Tom ducked lower, shielding Lisa with his body until the dust settled. "We need to fall back to position 3, he said, checking his weapons charge. "We can't let them reach the civilian shelters." Lisa nodded. She was about to speak when her communication device beeped. She looked at it with surprise. "It's Ben," she said. "He's still at the relay station. Says he's picking up strange energy readings in orbit." Tom frowned. "The void bringing in more ships?" "No." Lisa's eyes widened as she read the message. "He says it's different. Nothing like the void signatures, and it just appeared out of nowhere." Hope flickered in Tom's chest, but he quickly suppressed it. False hope was more dangerous than none at all. "Probably just a sensor malfunction," he said. "Tell him to." The sky above them suddenly lit up with a brilliant flash of light, so bright that both of them had to shield their eyes. When they looked up again, the red glow of the void ships had been replaced by something else. Multiple streaks of blue-white light descending rapidly from orbit. "What is that?" Lisa whispered. Before Tom could answer, his comm unit crackled to life. A voice came through, clear and strong. A voice he didn't recognize. "Haven Colony, this is Captain Jack Roberts of the Earth Battleship Defender. We received your call. Hold fast. Reinforcements are incoming." On the bridge of his flagship, General Dra was watching the ground assault with satisfaction when alarms began blaring across the command deck. "What now?" he demanded, irritated by the interruption. His sensor officer turned, mandibles clicking nervously. "Unknown energy signature detected, General. Massive power readings, like nothing we've ever seen." "Show me," Dra ordered. The main view screen changed to show the space above Haven. At first, there was nothing but the stars and his own fleet. Then, suddenly, reality itself seemed to tear open. A swirling vortex of energy appeared where empty space had been moments before. "What is that?" Dra demanded, rising from his command chair. Before anyone could answer, a massive ship emerged from the vortex, larger than any vessel in his own fleet, its hull gleaming with unfamiliar weapon systems. Behind it came smaller ships, dozens of them, pouring out of the tear in space like angry insects from a disturbed nest. "Impossible," Dra whispered. "No species has mastered instant space travel. The humans can't be here." "They can't." "Sir, they're deploying fighters," his weapons officer called out. "And drop ships heading for the surface." Dra's shock quickly turned to anger. "Target that main vessel. All ships, concentrate fire." His fleet responded immediately, energy weapons powering up and locking onto the defender. But the human ship moved with surprising speed for its size, its shields flaring blue as they absorbed the first volleys. "Their shields are holding," the weapons officer reported, unable to keep the surprise from his voice. "Our weapons are having minimal effect." "Impossible," Dra repeated, watching as the human vessel unleashed its own weapons. Brilliant beams of energy lanced out from the defender, striking 3 of his destroyers simultaneously. The void ship shields collapsed instantly, their hulls rupturing in explosive decompressions. For the first time in his long military career, General Dra felt fear. Captain Jack Roberts watched the battle unfold on the defender's tactical display. Their sudden arrival had given them a crucial advantage. Surprise. The Void fleet was scrambling to respond, their formation breaking apart as ships attempted to reposition. "Target their command vessel," Jack ordered. "Lieutenant Green, prepare to deploy our fighters." "Fighters ready for launch, sir," Anna replied. "Colonel Taylor's dropships are also prepared to depart." Jack nodded. "Launch all fighters. Tell Colonel Taylor he is clear to begin the ground assault." The ship shuddered slightly as launch bays opened, disgorging dozens of sleek fighter craft. Unlike the bulky Void ships, Earth's fighters were small, fast, and nearly impossible to hit. They streaked toward the enemy fleet, weapons blazing. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "I've established contact with Haven's defense forces. Captain James is requesting immediate assistance in the colony's central district." "Route his coordinates to Colonel Taylor," Jack replied. "Tell him help is on the way." On the main view screen, Jack could see the Void's command ship, a massive dark vessel bristling with weapons. It was turning slowly, trying to bring its main guns to bear on the defender. "They're targeting us, sir," the tactical officer reported. Jack smiled grimly. "Let them try. Shields at maximum. Return fire with the main cannons." The defender's advanced weapon systems came to life, energy building in the forward arrays. Unlike the crude plasma weapons used by the Void, Earth's ships were equipped with focused particle beams, weapons that could slice through enemy shields like they weren't even there. "Fire," Jack ordered. The beams lanced out, striking the Void command ship with pinpoint accuracy. Its shields flared and then collapsed, sections of its hull peeling away under the assault. "Direct hit," the tactical officer called out. "Their weapon systems are severely damaged." "Sir, Colonel Taylor reports his forces have landed," Anna said. "They're engaging Void ground troops near the colony center." Jack nodded. The battle was far from over, but they had achieved the impossible. They had arrived in time and were now fighting back. On the surface, Tom and Lisa watched in awe as the sky filled with unfamiliar ships. At first, they had feared it was more Void forces. But then they saw the symbols painted on the hulls. Earth's emblem, the blue planet with its protective shield. "They came," Lisa whispered, tears in her eyes. They actually came. Tom couldn't believe it either. Somehow, against all odds, Earth had received their message and responded, not in months, but in days. It seemed impossible. The dropships landed in the open area behind their position, ramps descending to disgorge heavily armed soldiers in advanced combat armor. Their weapons made the colonists look like toys. A tall, imposing man approached, his helmet retracting to reveal a weathered face. "Captain James?" he asked. Tom nodded, still stunned. "Colonel Bill Taylor, Earth Special Forces," the man said, extending a hand. "Heard you folks could use some help." Tom clasped the offered hand, feeling strength flow back into his tired body. "How is this possible? How did you get here so quickly?" Bill smiled. "New technology. The eggheads call it the Thunderbolt drive. First real test run. And I gotta say, it's one hell of a ride." More soldiers fanned out around them, taking up defensive positions. Their weapons hummed with power that Tom had never seen before. "What's the situation?" Bill asked. "All business now." Tom quickly described the Void's positions, their tactics, and the location of the civilian shelters. Bill nodded, then activated his comm. "All units, move to positions Alpha through Delta. Priority 1 is securing the civilian shelters. Show these Void bastards what happens when they mess with human colonies." He turned back to Tom. "Captain, if you and your people can hold this position, we'll handle the rest." Tom straightened, newfound determination flowing through him. "We'll hold. Count on it." Above them, the battle in orbit continued to rage. But for the first time since the Void had appeared, Tom felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. The battle for Haven unfolded across both space and ground with stunning speed. In orbit, the Defender moved with impossible grace for a vessel of its size, its advanced engines allowing it to outmaneuver the larger Void ships despite their numbers. Captain Jack Roberts stood at the center of his bridge, calmly issuing orders as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. "Evasive pattern Delta," he commanded. "Target their engines and weapon systems. Disable, don't destroy." "Sir," Lieutenant Anna Green questioned, glancing up from her console. "We need intelligence," Jack explained. "Admiral Brown wants prisoners and intact technology. Focus on the command ship." On the tactical display, Earth's fighters swarmed around the Void vessels, like angry bees, their smaller size making them difficult targets for the aliens' heavy weapons. With each pass, they struck with precision, targeting shield generators and weapon emplacements. "Sir, the Void fleet is breaking formation," the tactical officer reported. "They appear to be retreating." Jack frowned. This wasn't the behavior he expected from an armada that had conquered multiple systems without defeat. "It's a trick," he decided. "They're regrouping. Target their command ship before they can coordinate." The Defender's main cannons charged again, gathering energy until the air on the bridge seemed to crackle with power. When they fired, the beams cut through space like blue lightning, striking the Void command ship's engines. The massive vessel shuddered, then began to drift. "Direct hit," the tactical officer called out. "Their engines are offline." Jack allowed himself a small smile. "Send the boarding teams. I want General Dra alive." On the ground, the battle had transformed from a desperate last stand into a coordinated counterattack. Colonel Bill Taylor led his special forces through the colony streets, working in perfect sync with Captain Tom James and the colonial defenders. "Push forward," Bill shouted, his advanced battle armor deflecting enemy fire as if it were nothing more than rain. "Don't let them regroup." The Void ground forces, used to easy victories against outmatched opponents, found themselves facing soldiers with superior training and equipment. Earth's special forces moved like ghosts through the ruined buildings, their weapons cutting down alien troops with surgical precision. In the colony's main square, Tom and Lisa fought alongside Earth's soldiers, their exhaustion forgotten in the rush of combat. For the first time in days, they were advancing instead of retreating. "They're falling back," Lisa called out, watching as a group of Void soldiers abandoned their position. Tom nodded grimly. "Don't let up. We need to secure the civilian shelters." A massive explosion rocked the ground nearby as one of the Void's larger ground vehicles went up in flames, hit by a precision strike from an Earth fighter flying overhead. Bill approached, his armor scorched but intact. "Captain James, we've secured the east sector. My teams report the Void forces are in full retreat across the colony. They're heading back to their ships," Tom realized. Bill tapped his communication device. "Captain Roberts, be advised. Void ground forces are attempting to evacuate. Request air support to cut off their retreat." "Acknowledged, Colonel." Jack's voice came back clearly. "Fighters are being redirected now. Be advised, we've disabled their command ship and are preparing to board." Tom could hardly believe what he was hearing. In just hours, the seemingly invincible Void Armada was being driven back by Earth's forces. It seemed impossible. "How?" he asked Bill. "How are we winning so decisively?" Bill's face grew serious. "They've never faced real resistance before. Intelligence thinks they've been picking off isolated colonies and weaker species, building their strength. But they've never encountered Earth's full military power." He gestured to the sky, where the battle continued to rage. "That ship up there, the Defender, is just the prototype. Earth has been preparing for something like this ever since we started exploring beyond our solar system." A series of explosions lit up the sky as more Void ships fell to Earth's fighters. "Today," Bill said with grim satisfaction, "they picked the wrong species to mess with." On the bridge of his crippled flagship, General Dra watched in disbelief as his supposedly invincible armada was systematically dismantled by the human forces. Alarms blared all around him, emergency lights casting red shadows across the command deck. "Sir, Earth forces have boarded levels 3 through 7, his security chief reported, mandibles clicking nervously. "Our troops cannot hold them back. Their weapons, we've never seen anything like them." Drax snarled in frustration. This wasn't possible. The humans were supposed to be an emerging species, barely capable of interstellar travel. Yet here they were, wielding technology that rivaled or even surpassed the Void's own. "How many ships can still jump to safety?" he demanded. "Perhaps 15, General. The rest are either destroyed or disabled." Less than a third of his fleet, the worst defeat in the history of the Void Armada. "Order them to jump immediately," Dra commanded. "Return to Homeworld and warn the Council." The security chief hesitated. "And you, General?" Before Dra could answer, the doors to the bridge slid open with a hiss. Earth's soldiers poured in, their weapons raised. Behind them came a tall human in a captain's uniform. "General Dra, I presume," Captain Jack Roberts said calmly, as if they were meeting at a diplomatic function rather than in the middle of a battle. "I am Captain Jack Roberts of Earth's forces. Your fleet is defeated. Your ground forces are in retreat. I suggest you surrender." Drax stared at the human with hatred burning in his 4 eyes. "You think this is victory? This is merely one battle. The Void spans dozens of systems. We will return with 1,000 ships, and your colony will burn." Jack smiled slightly. "I don't think so, General. You see, while we've been talking, Earth has been analyzing your ship's computer systems. We now have the locations of all your bases, your fleet movements, even your homeworld." He stepped closer. "Right now, hundreds of ships like the Defender are being prepared. By the time you face trial for your crimes, the Void Armada will no longer exist." Drax's expression shifted from hatred to shock, then to something humans rarely saw on a Void face. "Fear. Impossible," he whispered. Jack shrugged. "That's what you thought about us arriving here in time to save Haven. Perhaps you should reconsider what humans are capable of." 3 days later, the colony of Haven was beginning to rebuild. The Void forces had been completely defeated, their remaining ships captured or destroyed. General Dra and several high-ranking Void officers were being held aboard the Defender, awaiting transport back to Earth for trial. Captain Tom James stood at the edge of the colony's main plaza, watching as Earth engineers worked alongside his people to repair the damage. The Defender hung in orbit above them, a gleaming guardian promising that Haven would never again be unprotected. "Captain," a voice called. Tom turned to see Lisa approaching with Captain Jack Roberts. "The last of the civilian shelters have been opened," Lisa reported, smiling for the first time in days. "Everyone's safe." Tom nodded, relief washing over him. "Thanks to Earth." Jack shook his head. "Thanks to your message. If you hadn't found that ancient relay, we would never have known about the attack until it was too late." "What happens now?" Tom asked. "Now," Jack said, "Earth knows the threat. The Defender will remain here to protect Haven while more ships are built. The Void thought they could pick us off one by one, colony by colony. They thought we were weak and isolated." He looked up at the sky, where the stars were beginning to appear as dusk fell. "They were wrong," he continued. "Humanity stands together. An attack on one colony is an attack on all of us, and they've learned what happens when Earth's forces arrive." Tom looked at the alien general being led in restraints toward a transport ship nearby. When Drax saw him watching, the general paused. "You," Drax said, his voice filled with bitterness. "You should have been easy prey. No one should have come for you." Tom stepped forward, facing the alien who had nearly destroyed his home and killed his people. "I told you someone would come," he said simply. As Drac was led away, Tom looked back at the colony, damaged but standing, its people alive and free. Above them, Earth's mightiest force kept watch, a promise to all humanity's children among the stars. "You are not alone. We will always come."